I've been riding on and off for the past 30 years, and that either is something to be proud of or it carbon dates me. But what it does do is it gives me a certain amount of perspective, especially when it comes to basic riding gear. Now, ever since I've been riding, basic riding safety gear hasn't really changed. It's been your crash helmet, some sort of protective jacket and pants, gloves and boots, and that hasn't changed in the past 3 decades. I will say that they have gotten more comfortable and more protective due to better materials and better designs, but like I said, there hasn't been any major development until the last few years anyway. Over the last few years, many riders, myself included, have become a little more conscious of what are some of the other options that we can add to our basic gear to really up the standard of protection when we're out there riding. And one of those things are airbag vests. That's why in this episode, I want to focus on one of the latest offerings from Hit Air. This is the STRC airbag vest. Now, despite my very lengthy introduction, worn motorcycle airbags have actually been around as a concept since the mid-1970s. Can you believe that? It wasn't actually until the mid-1990s, though, that a Japanese company, Mugen Denko, actually poured in the R&D to develop and perfect these vests. By 1998, they had perfected their vests, and by 1999, they were selling these vests all across Europe. Surprise, these vests are nothing new. They've been around for quite a while, but it's only been in recent years that they've become part of my consciousness as a rider, and I think that's due to the fact of variety of choices, and in terms of the price coming down. Earlier versions of these vests were a little bit expensive and a little bit cumbersome. They've since then become more streamlined and definitely more affordable. So Mugen Denko has continuously sort of improved, streamlined, and updated their designs. And new for 2021, they give us their latest vest. This is the Hit Air ST. Now, this specific model is the STRC, and it is absolutely one of the best choices you can make out there if you are in the market for the extra safety afforded by a worn airbag vest. Now, we'll dive into the specific features of this latest model a little later on in the video as we move along through the feature. But first, I want to take a couple of steps back and really just sort of break down the two different varieties of worn airbags. Now, I make that distinction because when I say motorcycle airbags, I'm talking about the worn variety, whether it's as a vest or a standalone jacket. I'm not talking about airbags that are fitted onto a motorcycle. There are a select few large motorcycles out there. Bikes like the Honda Goldwing, for example, have a couple of models that actually have airbags fitted on the motorcycle. What we're talking about today are worn airbags, whether as a vest or as a standalone jacket. Now, the two main types, in my opinion, are the tethered vests and your tetherless vest. Tethered vests, as the name implies, have a tether, a physical leash or lead that connects you, the rider, to a fixed point on your motorcycle, and you need to break that connection or separate from the motorcycle in order to trigger or activate an inflation. Now, tetherless vests, on the other hand, again, as the name implies, are tetherless. They do not have a leash or lead or a lanyard. They don't have a physical connection between you and the bike. Instead, they rely on a complex system of onboard microcomputers, microprocessors actually, that measure your speed, your lean angle, so on and so forth, with a complicated system of gyrometers, gyroscopes, and accelerometers, etc. It creates an algorithm, and it's constantly taking measurements, and it decides whether you're just having fun on your motorcycle or about to experience a crash, and in which case it will trigger or activate an inflation. Now, both of these types have their pros and cons. Now, let's talk about the tethered vests out there. Since it is a physical or analog connection, the triggering mechanism is relatively simple, and by consequence, they are also relatively more affordable compared to your tetherless variety. Another great thing about the tethered variety, in my opinion, it's one of the main things going for it, is you as the rider or owner of the vest have the ability to recharge and reset the vest should you experience an inflation, whether it's by accident or with a real deal accident. Now, speaking of accidentally inflating the vest, I think that's one of the main things that a lot of people worry about. Trust me, it's not likely to happen. It takes a considerable amount of force to step away from the motorcycle if you've forgotten to clip out. We're talking about 60 pounds of pressure or more to actually activate that. It's a serious amount of force. So it's not likely that you're going to step away from the bike and accidentally trigger an inflation. It's not impossible, but it is highly unlikely because it takes a serious amount of force. So going back to the real standout feature is you, as the owner of the vest, have the ability to recharge and reset the vest. So say you are on a multi-day tour or motorcycle trip and you experience, your run-of-the-mill parking lot tip over, or you're just very minor dust off where you just sort of stand up, dust yourself off and continue on your way. If there's no damage to the vest, and trust me, it's not likely that there will be in these minor accidents, you have the ability to reset and recharge it, provided that you're carrying the resetting tools and an extra CO2 canister. You can do that in a couple of minutes and you can be back on your merry way with the protection of your vest still intact. Sounds pretty good, but tetherless vests also have a few advantages and disadvantages. Now, tetherless vests, on the other hand, don't have a physical connection between you and the bike. There's no lead or leash. It's much more streamlined. So you don't feel like there's any kind of obstruction between you and the bike. You're much more free to move. You also have the added advantage of being able to wear these vests on the outside or on the inside of your gear, provided that you have enough inflation space on the inside of your gear. The downside, however, is that these microprocessors and accelerometers, etc., they're all run by battery. They are electronic. So you need to be very OC and very religious about keeping that battery topped up, or the battery could run out at a very inopportune time, leaving you without the protection of your vest. But the real downside for me is once the vest inflates, you actually need to send it back to the manufacturer. You do not have the capability as the rider or owner of the vest to actually reset and recharge the vest. You need to pack it away. You need to send it off to the manufacturer. So not only have you spent a lot of money up front, because these vests are considerably more expensive to purchase in the first place, you need to spend extra money to send it back to the manufacturer, which means that you will be without your vest for a considerable amount of time while the manufacturer checks that and sends it back to you. So if you are in the middle of a multi-day tour and you accidentally or legitimately inflate your vest, game over. You need to pack away the vest and send it back to the manufacturer. So as you can see, there are pros and cons. For myself, given the way that I ride and the budget that I have, tethered vests make the most sense for me. Do your research and decide for yourself. All right, let's get to talking about the specific features of this great vest for 2021, the STRC. Now, this vest is made of a 600 denier fabric, which means that it is very abrasion resistant. It's actually a mix of 600D fabric, little sections of polyester mesh. You've also got small sections of ripstop nylon on there. Overall, the vest itself is very sturdy and very abrasion resistant. On this particular model, you've got some nice new features here. You've got this molded key box over here, which makes it nice and neat. The key box actually holds the CO2 canister and the triggering mechanism. You've got some updates to the buckle system. This lower buckle is actually similar to what they had in the earlier models. This now has a much slimmer, more streamlined sort of top buckle on there. This fabric is pretty amazing. The RC model actually stands for Lumidex threads, which have actually been woven into the whole vest. Now, if you look at the vest, it's not that day glow or fluoro sort of high-vis color, but if you wear the vest in a dark environment and you shine a headlight on that, it's completely reflective and it makes you very, very visible. So you get the best of both worlds. It's nice and subtle during the daytime. It's not necessarily screaming high-vis or fluoro. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's your thing, that's your thing. If you prefer a more subdued, darker colored vest during the daytime, but want that visibility in dark conditions, the Lumidex RC model is actually the one to look out for. One of the other standout features on the STRC is, I believe this is the first time that they've actually baked in a hard CE Level 2 back protector into the vest itself, which is pretty nice. So it's an added layer of protection on there, nice and solid. Also on this vest, on the inside, you've got sections of Velcro on there. You've got Velcro strips, which actually aid in using some of the optional extras, such as this hard chest armor that you can add on there. This is an optional extra, but it does sort of up the level of protection. Now, we know from research that serious injury or possibly even death is caused by head injury, cervical spine or neck injuries, as well as chest trauma. So adding that chest protector on there with the protective qualities of the vest that protect your neck, your torso, and your back, obviously you get maximum protection and the most bang for your buck. Now, this vest has been designed in collaboration with a popular Italian brand. If you take a close look at the features and the way this vest looks, it looks very similar to the version of an airbag vest by Speedy. That's because Hit Air, Mugen Denko, actually produce airbag vests for many other brands out there, among them Speedy. So if you're looking for something similar to what you find in Speedy, you might want to take a closer look at the Hit Air option. Now, most people will want to ask, how much does wearing the airbag vest affect the airflow? How big a hassle is it to clip in and clip out? What does the vest actually feel like on a ride? Well, let's get back to the ride so I can tell you. Alright, what is this vest like when you're out riding? I have to say, when you wear it over your jacket, once you clip in and once you start moving, honestly, it disappears. You forget that it's there. You don't feel the extra heft and the extra bulk. Maybe in an urban environment like we're riding in right now, where you might have stop-and-go traffic or tighter sections with tighter traffic. Maybe when you're sitting at the stoplight, you might notice there might be a little less airflow. But not much, because honestly the vest still allows air to circulate, particularly towards the side, near your armpits where it gets hot. Fair trade in terms of protection versus very minor added discomfort, if any at all. I think that this would be hardly noticeable if you were putting in a lot of highway miles, where you have a lot of constant cool air rushing against you. Even with the optional chest plate armor, this wouldn't feel like it was cutting off any of the airflow. Now, one of the things that needs to be said though is you need to adjust this coiled wire or leash properly. You want to get that at the right length, follow the instructions that come supplied with the vest, and you should be golden. Now, one thing I did want to show you was the kind of coverage that you would get in the event of a crash. So if you guys are ready, hang on to your seats. Here we go. Now, you didn't actually think I was willing to crash on purpose, did you? Nope. But I did want to give you guys a sense of what kind of coverage you would get from this vest should you in fact find yourself in a crash. So you'll notice I'm wearing it over a light summer jacket. I have chosen to wear the optional chest armor there as well. And I've got a special handle rigged to the trigger here just for demonstration purposes. So pay attention to the kind of range of motion that I have here, particularly at the neck. We're going to want that neck stabilized. I can actually make contact with the chin bar on my chest, on my collarbone, but it's not something that you want in the course or in the case of an accident. You actually want to be semi-immobilized, all right? So we're gonna fire this bad boy up. I've been dying to do this. In 3, 2, 1. Well, take a look at this. Your neck is absolutely stabilized. You're not going to be like one of those bobbleheads. This will definitely save your neck and cervical spine area a lot of potential injury. The torso is also very much protected over here. Back, of course, lower back, you've got a little bit of protection here towards the side, and there's enough room for this to inflate and expand over the chest armor over here. So this airbag vest with this chest armor, I would feel really, really safe with this. And I gotta say, it was a pretty interesting experience popping that bag. Whew. I can feel it slowly deflating now, and once it deflates, it's an absolute breeze to recharge and reset yourself. Once the vest deflates completely, simply unscrew the used CO2 cartridge, use the supplied resetting tools to hold down the trigger spring, replace the ball key, screw in a new CO2 canister, and you are ready to go. Well, that, in a nutshell, is the STRC for you. It is comfortable, it's super reliable, it is light, less than 1.5 kilos with that hard CE Level 2 back armor baked in there. It's fast, an inflation time of 0.1 second, and honestly, it represents great value for money in my opinion. Now, in fact, you can't put a value or a price on the protection afforded by an airbag system. I'd be happy to see more riders rocking some sort of airbag jacket or airbag vest, regardless of the type or brand. Just get yourself that protection. So if you're interested in looking at an airbag system, why look at any other brand other than the brand that pioneered airbag technology in the first place, and that is Hit Air. If you're interested in any of the Hit Air vests, jackets, or any of their accessories, actually, you can check them out on Facebook or check out any of the local Philippine distributors. I am convinced and converted. I use one every day now, and I also have one for my wife when she rides as my pillion passenger. So whether you are riding solo or with a pillion, give yourself the added extra protection that an airbag system will give you. That's all I've got for you in this episode. If you like this content, go ahead and click like and subscribe. I'm Paolo Abrera. I'll see you guys in the next episode of The Man Cave.